You are live.
Thinking about that sort of thing.
Oh. Live stream? Yeah.
And then, I don't know if you remember Jim Austin, he's near New Auto's stepson. He's another man I saw him on Saturday.
He's gonna have his skin.
And I was trying to let you know. It didn't happen. But, so,
Also on the annual policy updates, that's just the first reading. So,
no questions on that. This is our first reading. Questions?
But it kind of seems. Ways and commercials, history.
yeah. There was only one that had a minor question on, and they removed the requirement for staff training around child abuse.
So now it's going to be previous training. But in that,
Where are we at? Okay. There you go.
Yeah, sounds good. Hello, Annette. How you doing?
Good.
Good trip?
Oh, amazing. Oh, amazing. Hard to come back.
Most people are. You're everyone's favorite part about the city. That's
And you
it.
can't breathe here? That's cool.
Yeah. Both from allergies and from humidity for the first 2 or 3 weeks. Now everybody is
This
activated.
has been brutal.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Yep. See how that. Probably. Worst things have happened.
Hey.
Hopefully I don't have it when we can.
Right.
I do?
Please.
Okay, you okay? Keep
Good
your
evening.
focus straight, I hope.
Hi.
That's a superstar right there.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Uh,
I talked to David, I called, I said, it's gonna be a few minutes late. He said, I'm leaving now too. Uh-oh.
just a little bit. I have just a couple of conversations. But honestly, everything you said is not the straightforward stuff. Everything from the last 2 months has just become a weird report. There's nothing that's going on. All of a sudden, everything is going on all at once. Alaska was a little bit. I think the first day of the conference was maybe the most frustrating professional experience I've had in a while. So, not people were very surprised. Hey there. Yeah.
A little bit.
Oh, good.
Walk a little more. I don't smoke. That's way better.
Awesome.
Yeah, so
And we'll go ahead and get started tonight. Call the meeting to order and let's do the Pledge of Allegiance, ladies and gentlemen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
here you go.
All right. We'll start off tonight with the Superintendent's Board Report.
All right, tonight for my superintendent's report, I do want to thank the board for these 3 months as acting superintendent. It's been, for me, a full circle event after starting the first 6 years of my career here teaching Spanish and journalism right on the balcony up here, and really enjoyed that. I've been able to reconnect with several former students, and some of them are now even teachers here, and many colleagues that I taught with as well. And it's really been an honor and a highlight getting to work with this very special district and many in our community. And also I've been in communication with Dr. Needs over the last several weeks. I look forward to his leadership leading our district. He has a really nice vision for his work here, and he understands the things needed to continue the good work that is being done. And I found him to be a really good educator as well, I'm certain, but communicator. And I personally heard the passion in his voice for leading this district, and I'll continue to offer him and the board any support needed for his or the district's success. And I really enjoyed working with all the district staff, many of them here in the audience today, and everyone from special education to technology or DPP and academics and so forth, and everybody in between. And I think we've got a really good district staff that is focused on student achievement and the needs of our schools. And the two district members I work the most closely with, Nathan Sweet, Christine Knight. It's just been tremendous working with those two true professionals. And I really couldn't, I thank them and couldn't have done anything without both of them. And in addition, I appreciate, in addition to all the appreciation for the opportunity, I want to formally acknowledge some changes in the district. We've gone from 3 principals down to 2 principals. And once Ms. Coyle announced her intent to leave as an elementary principal, it provided the opportunity that KDE asked us to look into, specifically whether we would have 2 principals overseeing our schools. And as many know, I just want to formally acknowledge Mr. Casey Pointer will serve as our elementary principal, and Ms. Kelly Caldwell will serve as what I've framed or termed our secondary principal. And they've both been serving as principals, done a really nice job, and I'm glad Berea will continue to have the continuity in those roles that we've been seeing as we move forward with them in a similar yet different manner. Also, next month, I alluded to the board last month that we'd be working on our engineering teacher, and we feel very confident in that. So next month, I would expect the board to see a ratified position for an adjunct engineering professor. I would recommend that you all create and ratify that position as an adjunct so that we can continue on with that career pathway. And Tim Hope has been just exceptional in working with that, getting that in place, and also with all of our data around TEDS and so forth. Lastly, I'm really appreciative of our students and staff finishing strong this spring. And now as we move forward and toward July and the next school year, there's a lot of work that is already underway, and it'll continue in making that focus on the 25-26 school year another great one for our students and community. Thank you, and that concludes my report.
All right. Any further questions?
I just want to thank Dr. Ellen Thomas again for coming as acting superintendent during our great times. And thank you for the, input and not just your frustration, but actually your demeanor, your presence, and your time dedicated to the staff, students, and the families here in the community. So thank you.
A second, thanks.
All right, and next up will be the financial report. How are you this evening, Nate?
I'm doing all right. How about you?
Good. Still getting used to this echo effect.
A little bit.
Alright, so I do have a financial report. There's a couple other items on the agenda. I need to get away from the buzz a little bit.
Yeah.
But there are a couple other items that I anticipate there could be questions on, so I'm just gonna go through those.
Sounds good.
also, and then, of course, if there are questions as we get to those items, just let me know.
Sure.
So, this month we started with $2,903,732 and some change. General fund revenue looks good this month, but don't let it fool you, because the reason that looks a lot healthier than it has in the last few months is because of the way that we made the bond payment. That large bond payment that we've been dreading has been made. So that is now gone, but with the resolution to defease the bonds that you all passed, we were able to use some of the remaining proceeds to make that payment. And since that was an energy project and that bond payment was a general fund bond payment, the money moved into the general fund to make the payment. So it looks like we brought in a whole lot of money. Not quite the case. We're still very much in the same situation we had in the beginning. So, month as a whole, revenue and interest was $1,540,199.25, but about $700,000 of that is that. Those remaining proceeds just kind of moving around before we send them off. Expenditures, total expenditures, $2,594,319. You'll see the general funds up there. Really wasn't a different month. It's still kind of in the same sort of deficit situation we've been in as a whole. And we were winding down the school year, not a whole lot of big one-time expenses, anything like that, just our normal payrolls and our normal bills we have to pay. So everything's kind of calming down. Everything's been quiet, but it's kind of the nature of our normal year. Food service, they brought in $64,660. They spent out $75,788. So they ended with $172,603.11. And I did have that is down from what we usually expect this time of year. And part of it is earlier in the year we had made some large purchases because you're not allowed to keep large. I think there's some percentage of your total operating cost you're allowed to keep in that fund. So if that balance gets too high, they kind of come down and say, hey, what's your plan to get rid of this money? That's where we ended last year with food service specifically. We bought some new ovens and things. So we're still in good shape. Definitely something, again, we're going to keep an eye on. I've spoken to the food service manager, and we're just going to keep working through that. We have one staffing change coming up there that's going to lower some of their payroll expenses, and we'll just kind of keep an eye on them as we move into next year. We won't be able to tell a whole lot until school starts serving this year. So later in the agenda, we have our insurance renewals. And these are just renewals. So I think my slides got out of order, so forgive me. But administrative regulation ties back to several statutes on what sort of insurance coverage a school district has to have. The big piece of this and the most expensive from an insurance standpoint is property insurance. We have to carry enough insurance to cover 100% of the replacement cost of all of our facilities. And what those replacement costs are set annually by KP. And so the biggest driver for change outside of weather, natural disasters, and we had a lot of tornadoes last year that have impacted, Kentucky as a whole. But our biggest thing is the building classification cost per square foot that KP sets. The majority of our facility, we are a K-12 school. We're in this building. We have to insure this building for $388.20 per square foot. That is up from last year, and you'll see the property insurances too, but it's not significant.
What is the total value of a 1969 model spaceship?
So our right now, our latest valuation on this building is $73,403,722.
$73 million.
It's an expensive spaceship. It's almost NASA. But that is up over $2.6 million. Building replacement cost, and that is why our insurance is also up. They're not, other than this, it's a $27,195 increase in total. The biggest change is with our auto coverage. For last year, our deductible was $5,000 on a school bus, $2,500 on any of our other vehicles, our vans, our RAV4. We don't have a lot. We got 3 vans and our RAV4. Well, they have raised that, so now it's $5,000 on everything. All of our vehicles now have a $5,000 deductible. And our minimum deductible on anything with our property insurance, and this is not a change, is $10,000. The big one is if it's water damage, $50,000. If it is wind or hail, $100,000. So good thing we do have the big metal roof. And then our crime coverage, there are no changes to it. I put the deductibles up there. They're relatively low. It's $1,000 on employee theft and $2,500 on money and securities. So that'd be like theft of money or some sort of fraudulent contract or forgery, something like that, that also led to monetary loss. So our total premium is $177,000, $980 on our Liberty Mutual policy, which is the auto, crime, and the property. And that is up $27,000. Our workers' comp and student accident insurance. Our workers' comp goes through Keeney, which is the Kentucky Employee Mutual Insurance Company, and it has for many years. The only change with it, our modification rate went from 0.74 to 0.76. And trust me, this is going to be layman's terms because I'm not an insurance person. But 1.0 is what they expect. So they set this rate at, they look at all the data and they say this is the level, these are the number of claims, these are how many accidents we think you're going to have in a year. That when it puts us at 1.0. So for next year we're at 0.76, we're 24% safer than the average school district. At least by. However, I'm sure this is a very complicated calculation. But that did lower our annual premiums actually decreased on this by $1,277.99. Not anything major. And our student accident policy it's a renewal of AG administrators. There's no change to that policy at all. Exact same cost, exact same coverage. And that's another one we have to have, not only because we got over 900 kids running around the building, coverage for that, but to be be allowed to go out into the community, we have to provide proof of that insurance before. Probably wisely, a lot of businesses will let us on their grounds with 2,800 kids. So no change there. That premium is exactly the same, $22,000. I have another item on here for capital funds request. Basically what that is, it is a request to transfer funds from the capital outlay fund to the general fund for allowable expenses. You'll notice it reads a little interesting on the board agenda, and that is because we've had a little bit back and forth on what is allowable with KDE in a healthy way. They are trying to help us and make sure that we stay in line, and I certainly want that. But I want a little more time to go back and forth with them. So instead of bringing you all a list and saying, this is the list we want to request, and then taking issue with one item, and then taking all of them back out. And of course, this is June, so we don't have a whole lot of, we don't have another board meeting before the fiscal year closes. So I basically looked at all of our expenses for the year and interpreted it in the loosest way I could, put all those things on this list. So if you all approve, that's kind of giving me the green light to go to KDE and argue my points on any and all of those. And I don't think there is a reality where they approve the whole thing. In fact, I had a little bit of follow-up with someone at KDE earlier today. They've already said no to a couple of the items. There are some I know they'll say yes to, like our property insurance. We had some expenses related to roof leaks, we put down some new flooring, we did our annual maintenance on the gym floors. Those things I know they'll allow. And so some of the rest of it, I'm just kind of throwing it in there so that I can go and argue my point. So my point on it is, in the KD guidance, there's a lot of talk of non-operational costs. They go into a lot more detail in the statute. The statute says these funds may be used for school plant maintenance, repair, insurance on building, replacement of equipment, purchase of school buses, and the purchase of modern technological equipment, et cetera, for educational purposes only. So I feel like there's some room for argument there, and I just want to have some further conversations with them. As much as they'll let us transfer, I would be glad to, because it'll offset our general fund deficit, and frankly, we're not in a building project right now. We could use of those funds.
And it's a first step towards maybe solidifying our staff, because once our general fund is in good shape again, we can start thinking about those sorts of things. So
That's priority number one, is we gotta get the general fund balanced, and have the deficit in the year, and this will put us a step closer to that, certainly. So the last item, I think, that you might have a question for me on this agenda is our salary schedule for next year. So salary schedule is annual. There are several statutes and things specifically related to certified staff members all being paid off a single salary schedule. But we do our best to put every position in the district. That's why we're certified on the salary schedule. So that's kind of what we're looking at. We're looking at everybody's pay. So highlights, and these are things we've talked about throughout this budgeting process. It's just kind of makes something official. Is the removal of 5 contract days for principals, administrative staff, counselors, support staff. Really, anybody in the district that works longer than the regular school year. Our base contracts are 185 for food service, 187 for everyone else. So this year I was on a 240-day contract. Next year, this salary schedule I'll be on 235 day. And that's pretty well across the board. The only ones I did not take down are our food service director. That is a separate fund. It's not impacting the general fund. And her day count's kind of low anyway to get everything done. basically what I've done is duplicated step 0, which is our starting pay, and moved that down to step 1, and then step 1 to step 2, step 2 to step 3, and so on. And that basically just freezes everybody what they were making this year for next year. And it, depending on which scale you look at, if you look at the average change from step to step, you can pretty well say it's 1%. Some of them are a little higher, some of them are a little lower. But around 1%, so those step raises, all things aside, just on our base contracts, the step raise costs about $103,000. And then, of course, giving onto an extra duty, that adds to that. So 103 is the minimum of that cost. And step raise can end up being a little costlier. So that is the reason for that. And I had some more bullet points on this. This is my last slide, but I've sent it to Dan twice. This is my fault as well. My other slide was out of order. But after some conversations, we did return the athletic gates to the 23-24 levels instead of completely removing them. That was kind of a compromise. They had been doubled last year from what they were in prior years, so this just takes them back to what they were in 23-24, and I think at least 8 years before that. There are some changes related to athletics, recombining middle and high school track and cross-country teams. Those have been relatively recently split apart. Our esports and flag teams, we don't have those, so just for budget reasons, they've come out, and if it comes to a point where we want to bring those back, then we just need board approval to do that. But that way we can truly have a conversation and not just kind of hire somebody in that we hadn't planned on in the budget. There are 6 assistant coaching positions between basketball and football that are also removed. And then my other missing bullet points were some other positions that were either eliminated during this budget process or vacant. And I think having a vacant position just kind of sit down much more dangerous. So we remove them. That way it'll necessitate a formal process to be bring those back. That is all I have, other than missing bullet points. If you all have any questions.
With the sports coaching, the assistant coaches, you said you got rid of 4 assistant coaches for basketball and 2 football, correct? So the number of coaches for high school would be going from to what to what?
So each of our girls basketball, boys basketball, and football teams all had a head coach and 4 assistants. So each of those teams is going to a head coach and 2 assistants.
Okay. And the same thing would happen for middle school? It would be the same number or a lower number?
Middle school stayed the same because they all had a head and assistant.
Okay.
So we don't want to cripple our teams as far as
I don't see the rest of them, yeah.
We already struggled a little bit, and we all know that. But we did just, we're looking at everything that we could stay functional, but also, survive this.
I also understand, you also said that the pending bond or paying down was $700,000 pending, so it's showing in there as part of the capital, part of the general fund, but it's actually pending, correct?
It showed as a revenue just because of the transfer, but the payment is gone and posted. So that transfer, I think what date that went through. But yeah, the payment is made.
Okay, it's made, but it's not showing in the fund yet, is that correct?
I believe.
And the numbers you showed, it wasn't showing yet?
No, it'll show you in June.
It'll show in June?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Actual payment.
Thank you for that clarification.
Absolutely.
That's all. It's on the.
Okay. There we go. Okay, as we roll over to the new fiscal year, so sorry. That's when we'll start to see some changes that we built into next year's budget, right? Is that where you anticipate seeing the rebuild that's coming for general fund and all of those pieces?
Yes. Is one more? Yeah.
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 Yes, so right now, our general fund, like we finished last month in an deficit.
Right.
It's small-ish right now. You know, we're, I've got the number, but, you know, it's less than $90,000. That's a little worse at the end of June, and I think we're all kind of expecting that. And then once we get into July, we start bringing revenue in, but we're, of course, going to be spending less than the district plan.
Right.
So we will slowly start seeing our general fund balance rebuild, and hopefully this time next year, we're talking about how we are in a way better place, and we can't believe we survived that mess. We never want to do that again.
There you go.
But that suggests everything is trending the way we had expected over the last few months, so there's been no surprises.
No surprises. No news is good news on this one. You know, the report next month after we completely reconcile June is not going to be a pretty one. You know, I know we've all kind of known that's coming since we started kind of knowing in November, and by March we were painfully aware that was where we were headed.
As you go through this process, will you be sharing targets with us, like where you want to be at certain points in the year in terms of fiscal health?
You know, that's, you might have to think that's what the budget is, truly. So once we are in this new budget, you know, as we've been finishing this year, we've been able to make some small changes, but we're still kind of just living with what we have. So certainly, you know, I think just watching how our revenue and expenses are kind of interacting each month will paint a really clear picture, especially by the end of the year, once we start getting our property tax revenues in, we have rates set. So we'll be setting next year's tax rates here in a couple of months. That's coming up around August. So, you know, we'll really have a good idea, have several months of spending to look back at. I think we'll have a really good idea of where we're at. Somewhere around mid-year, we'll really kind of know once school starts and we have a month of school. We'll have a better picture of where we're headed. I know I was having this conversation on a personal level, and I said, you know, I think I'm finally going to be able to take a deep breath and figure out everything around December. But that is just being, can't let her go.
Well, I hope you get some good breaths in before December, for sure.
One more note, you talked about also a while back having budget meetings with the board throughout the school years going on. Did you want to do quarterly, or do you coordinate this night about how many budget board meetings you want to do towards building transparency?
You know, I think that's up to you all as far as, you know, certainly we need to have some working sessions around like draft, tentative working budgets. Outside of those, and really outside of those times, it kind of depends on what you'd like to see. I'm open for whatever you all want to do in that area. You know, we could put together something a little more incremental where we sit down and just really dive into the details of this is what's been going on, this is what we're seeing. Outside of that planning component.
All right. thank you very much. Appreciate your time this evening.
Hard work.
And next we have a little space for audience comment tonight. If anybody would like to take the microphone. Good evening.
Hello, good evening to you all. Sarah Hall, parent of a soon-to-be third and fifth grader here. And I just wanted to first say thank you for the efforts that have gone into making the board meetings accessible. It took over a year of asking, and hearing no, and I don't know what the magic was, but thank you for the magic of making it happen. I appreciate that. And the other thing that I wanted to mention is just summer is, we're in summer mode. I want to remind you all of the energy that was in this room, the energy that was in the Folk Center of parents and community members that are interested in helping us through this transition. And I'm hopeful that the district can think strategically about how to manage volunteers in particular in the schools. So I just want to put that out there and encourage some thinking on whether that is happening at the school level or at the district level. I know the college, there are many different faculty and staff that are interested in being able to volunteer, and the college has set up a system to allow people to do that, but if there's no way to manage that on this end, then it can't happen. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you all for your work, and I know that it's extra work to make the meetings accessible, and I really, really appreciate that, and I'm looking forward to being able to know what's going on without physically having to be here every meeting. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Appreciate you.
Hi, Roger Trussell. I work here in the school. I just wanted to thank Dr. Thomas again from all the faculty and staff. We really appreciate how present he's been, like coming in the building or coming out to the car loop and standing with us, greeting the students. It's been very fun having you filling in and helping out, and so we really do appreciate what you've done for this school district.
And seeing no other takers, let's move on to the adoption of the agenda.
I motion for adoption.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Agenda is adopted. We have several consent items this evening. Are there any that board members would like to pull out for additional consideration?
The physical science position.
Sure thing. So item 4D, physical science position, we're going to create or ratify a .55 physical science position at PCHS. That request is requested by both Ms. Caldwell and Dr. Thomas. Specific questions about it?
No. So it'll go into effect this coming school year? Okay. That was no more question.
Good. All right. Do I have a motion to approve the consent items?
I motion.
Second.
2 seconds.
All those in favor? Aye. All right. We will move on down to the business items for this evening. We have 2 second readings that are up first. These are approval of policy revisions. This was adding the Memorial Day holiday, as we discussed in the last board meeting, and that we sort of slid in to make sure our folks could actually enjoy it. Do I have a motion for the...
I motion to approve Memorial Day holiday for both classified and certified.
A second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. Approval on A and B there. Next up is the renewal of our insurance coverage that Nathan was walking us through just a little while ago. The package will be through the Linville Insurance Agency for approximately $227,000.
I motion for approval of coverage.
My second.
All those in favor?
Aye. I just wanted to say that we have had good service from the Lincoln folks, so appreciate
Yep, we sure do. Next item up are the annual policy updates, of which there was a rather extensive document, about 196 pages. This is just a first reading of those policy updates, opportunity for folks to ask some questions if they have them. And then I suspect if you're like me, go back and review them again to make sure we've done our due diligence on that one.
Real quick, also when we read the policies beforehand, right at the top, they have an explanation of why the policy's been updated and what's why. So I was able to understand a little more. So I read the 197 pages.
It was definitely helpful. And as I understand it, the majority of the policy changes are things that are actually have been put in statute. So to some degree, our hands are tied, but we will need to approve them on a second reading, after second reading. Any questions about those policies for tonight? Or can we move to approve the first reading?
I approve the move for the first reading. Can you say?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All those who appreciate Nathaniel for moving us right along tonight? We also had some changes to the employee handbook and substitute teacher handbook. This again is recommended by Nathan Sweet and Dr. Thomas. Questions from folks on those?
Actually, just a clarification, we talked about adding for technology, something should happen to our technology and building or in our coverage, that it would be covered under certain circumstances. Could I have an elaboration on that, Mr. Dr. Thomas?
Yeah, that one actually goes back to the previous, the first reading of our policies. That's included in the first reading of the policy. That actually includes that if there is damage by anyone who has our technology, it is the responsibility of that person to pay for the cost of that. So we don't see that there is a need for an additional policy that's going to be redundant all over again.
Yeah, but at the same time, they also have a list of the amount per charge for things such as Chromebooks and cell phones.
Yes, he has that list. Yes.
Daniel will be happy to provide that to everyone.
Itemized list that people know, as well as students.
Okay. Oh, yeah. That is a good sort of question. How do we make sure that we're sharing that with students? I assume that's in a packet at the beginning of the year.
More than likely, acceptable use policy, we have some amendment tied to that list of prices. We just, in terms of pricing, it does change year to year, so I have to, I would say, contact a few of my sources to make sure that the current prices I have are like what would cover have. So.
Or we could, perhaps some relatively vague language again about replacement costs or fair market value, I think, rather than having to redo our
That's the biggest
process.
thing. Prices always changing, devices prices always change. It's better to do something like that. Where it's fair market.
Very much agree. On the employee handbook and substitute teacher handbook, any additional questions?
There being none, I motion for it to be approved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. The salary schedule, the much discussed salary schedule over the last few months is up for final approval. Do I have a motion to approve?
I motion.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
We also have the capital funds request that was discussed earlier that we hope will result in $400,000 worth of shifting, but we'd be happy with $100,000 worth. Take what we can get. Further questions or a motion to approve?
One quick comment, I want to thank again Nathan for continuously working with KE on our behalf, trying to get everything that we can legally covered up front to make sure that we are following all the statutes we have. So thank you for your hard work. Appreciate your dedication to the community schools. And I will motion to approve.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Board member comments, ladies and gentlemen.
Is it okay if I start?
Absolutely.
For number one, I want to thank the graduates of 2025 for allowing us to be at their ceremony because it was indeed their day. very proud to know quite a few of them crossing stage. It's just a blessing to see them crossing, as well as seeing throughout this district, the dedication from the staff and family communities continue to enrich and dive into helping a lot of those graduates continue their education, their life in this crazy world that we live in. So thank you on that part. Also prayers out to those who are dealing with sickness, as you know, there's weird bugs going around. And all those future pirates coming in. Thank you for choosing your future here.
I'll second that.
Excellent.
It does take a lot, and I think this year illustrated the full village support for the students. One particular example I have over here was one of the parents whose graduating student came up to the principal that the counselor was Dr. E to express her amazing gratitude at what she thought she could not do, she had been able to do with the extra support. So it's gratifying. Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Thomas.
I'll keep it short. Thank you, Dr. Thomas. I think we're in an exciting place compared to where we were 3 months ago, and I'm excited that we can continue to move forward. I think Mr. Sweet's guidance of still being very cautious is exactly where we need to be, and I hope that we will be mindful of doing that. Also in thinking through what support beyond the monetary looks like. What we heard about from volunteers and what we heard from teachers is next year we need more help, that we can be strategic in that. So looking forward to the promise of rebuilding.
I want to thank everybody for getting us through this year. School staff at all levels, teachers, parents, kids, you name it. We got through it together. That's been incredibly gratifying over the last few months. Everybody said most of the nice things I was going to say about Dr. Thomas here this evening, so I won't, go on too long about how much you've meant to the school system. But I really do appreciate the way that you came in from the first moment, showed yourself to be a person of character and integrity, and helped rebuild a sense of what it means to be a high-performing district and how we treat each other well. And I think that is the thing that we should all take away from this, that if we do treat each other well and work together, we're going to have an amazing school system in the next few years. So I think we're on the path, and we appreciate you being here to get us started. So thank you very much. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, a motion to adjourn.
A motion.
I knew you would. Second. No, he wants to stick around.
I'll second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much, all good.
And I still have your cell phone number, so you know.
Yeah, we all do. That's dangerous.
Sounds good. Listen,
Oh, I've seen people mess things up pretty well, so I will continue.